And welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Thursday, the 21st of September. I think this is the first day of fall. Great color for fall orange, isn't it? But either way, I'm just glad. I love this time of year. In looking for things and thinking about topics for today, I pulled up this book, Christianity for the Rest of Us by Diana Butler Bass. And I've got all kinds of notes, like these are things I want to think about again. And in this, I came across this passage, and I read this book about a year or so ago. So I'm looking at thinking, what was I thinking? I wonder why I chose this. And then I got thinking about the appropriateness of this because, well, it talks about the American birth story, sort of. It's really appropriate to Canada as well, and other places I think that are struggling with the whole idea of our Christian, our found country founded on God, Christian roots, but also with the recognition of those Indigenous or First Nations peoples that were here before us, and how we have written the script to justify ourselves. So I'd like to share this with you. Um, she says, although like minded Protestants might appreciate this effort, the evangelical version of a Christian American is unsettling to many people. It portrays the founders as saints, a pantheon of larger than human characters, whom God personally inspired and directed. Because of their faith filled heroism, and because God scripted the action, every event of American history is good, godly, and pure. A sort of post biblical revelation enacted on American soil. And I want to interject here that we could just put in Canada as well, just different ways of talking about it. That includes, of course, trying to explain away doctrinal irregularities and moral failings, and ignoring the fact that American Christians committed wholesale evils like slavery, the genocide of Native peoples, persecution of non-Protestants, racism, and violence against women and children. And it ignores religious diversity with sad, tragic, and challenging memories of Christianity. Remixing the past by taking out the unpleasant bits is a dangerous thing. The evangelical version of American history is not just a divine drama, however, it is also a morality play. Spectators are asked to do more than watch. Believers become heirs and actors, people required to follow the script as revealed to the founding fathers by God in Jesus Christ. In other words, conservative Protestants are not comfortable with the idea that their view of history is just that, their view. Rather, they want to enshrine their view as the story of our national past. Indeed, most of these Christian histories seek to dominate all other stories and reshape American history according to their reading of the past, or Canadian history, I would argue, is the same way. I found this passage really powerful, especially today since I read it like a year and a half ago, because we are heading in 10 days, yeah, I think it's 9 days, to the National Day, the Orange Shirt Day, the day when we take time to remember in Canadian history what our government, our churches, our communities did to our First Nations or Indigenous people. So people will gather on September 30th and they will wear their orange shirts. In many places like Wetaskiwin here in Alberta, there will be a whole day of events, a teepee raising and a walk, an orange shirt walk, and people will remember and speak the truth of what actually happened. And in doing so, we're not trying to sort of shame on you, or, we're going to beat each other up and mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. It's about reframing the narrative. When I was a child, we didn't hear in church about, or in school, about residential schools or about the role that churches or the government played in spreading smallpox intentionally, in some cases, to whole tribes of indigenous peoples to eliminate the Indian problem. We didn't talk about those things. We didn't even begin to. But through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission here in Canada, we have begun doing that intentionally. Schools and developing programs, professional schools like teachers and nurses and seminaries, lawyers, we're all being taught what really happened in an effort to continue the work of living into the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's um, the demands. There really are demands that we as a country undertake. And part of that, as a leader in the church and as a Christian in the church, is recognizing that the way that we have framed Christianity, the way that we have framed the working of Jesus Christ in the world, in Canada, in the United States, is one in which we have, as the victors, told the story from the victor's perspective, which is really ironic because Jesus never did that, did he? In the Gospels, Jesus, I can't think of a time when Jesus took the side of the victor, took the side of those who were in power, took the side of those who were putting other people down. Jesus didn't just help to pull those people who had been pushed down up. He became one who was pushed down. Like he literally embodied the ones who were being pushed down. And yet we have this sort of idea in our white culture, for the Christian part, especially, I think, probably, I don't know, I'm going to say Christian because I think Catholic, Protestant in Canada anyway, same thing, similar thing anyway. We have taken on this idea, this narrative, that the Jesus that we love, the Jesus that we worship, supports all of our political and ideological situations and institutions. And the fact is that I don't know that Jesus would. Were Jesus to arrive here in Wainwright, Alberta, on the 21st of September, 2023, would he recognize the institutions and the laws that we have and the ways that we treat each other, even the way we worship and talk about him? Would he recognize those as the very things he came to share with the people of God? Probably not. To the victor go the spoils. To the victor goes the opportunity to reframe history. But the fact is that we are living in a postmodern world. In my university days, we were in a postmodern world. I think we're beyond that. I don't know what it's called, but I think we're in a postmodern world. And we are now in a world where we recognize that it isn't that history, the true history, cannot be the story, only the story of the victors. But all of history is made up of the stories of all of the participants in history. And only now are we truly beginning and making it more mainstream that we tell the stories, the true stories of what has happened. And we live in the difficulty of those times and those stories. And then when we allow ourselves to live in the difficulty, to recognize that the founding fathers, or whatever we want to call them, those people, usually men, way back when, who made decisions and just, and established the norms, that maybe I'm not going to judge what they were doing then, but they don't fit today. The Jesus that says that all of the things that happened 200-300 years ago was okay, it was God's plan, that's not the Jesus of today. The Jesus of today says we walk in solidarity with one another. We share our stories. We take the opportunity when we are invited to speak our truth, but then we also take have the privilege of sitting down, closing our mouths, opening our ears, and listening to another's truth. And in that space, when we allow ourselves the gift of listening and sharing, I think that is indeed where we will find Jesus. We will find the Spirit. We will find the presence of God. When we find that place where all of us can come together and say, this is my truth, and I honor my truth, and I will honor yours. And together we will find a way to create the truth, or experience the truth that God had intended in the first place. My hunch is that God's intended truth is one filled with grace and love and hope and community working together. So as we in Canada prepare for the 30th, a week and a half from now, I encourage you to pull out your orange shirt wherever you might be and go for a walk and think about, what is our history? What is the truth of our history? What are the facts of our history? And how can we move forward creating a holistic, humane history for all of God's children here on Turtle Island or wherever you may be? Have a great day. God bless. And I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.